Welcome back to CIA Declassified. In our last episode, Subproject 12, we learned how the agency tried to manipulate the entire social fabric. Today, we focus on an attack so fundamental it aimed to reprogram the human mind by overwhelming the input channels, the eyes and the ears. This is MK Ultra Subproject 9, the Optic-Acoustic Hypnosis Bridge. The scientists working on this project believe that by precisely controlling the frequency and timing of sensory input, they could force the brain into a state of brainwave entrainment, essentially forcing the subject's brainwaves, alpha, theta, or delta, to follow the externally imposed rhythm. If the brain could be forced into a deep theta state, the thinking went, it would become highly suggestible, eliminating the need for violent interrogation or mind-altering chemicals like LSD. The promise was simple, yet terrifying, a silent, untraceable weapon of compliance. The foundational research for Subproject 9 drew heavily from EEG studies. Researchers focused on flicker fusion frequency and the ability of rhythmic light and sound to induce altered states of consciousness. The apparatus designed for this purpose was named the synchronizer. It consisted of two primary components: an optic element, a stroboscopic light source capable of flashing at precise adjustable frequencies ranging from 4 to 12 cycles per second, targeting theta and alpha waves, and the acoustic element, an ultrasonic emitter array tuned to frequencies above 20 kHz, which is inaudible to most human subjects but still registers at a subaural level, generating a powerful, though unconscious, pressure. The ultimate goal was to synchronize these two signals perfectly to create a unified sensory assault on the subject. We have an early document detailing the initial physiological findings. Document Lab-9-041, Laboratory Research Findings, Entrainment Induction. Description of the document: it's an interim report confirming the measurable increase in theta brainwave activity when subjects were exposed to the 6 Hz stroboscopic ultrasonic synchronization. Quote, subject's initial resistance is characterized by sharp beta wave spikes, typically 18 to 25 Hz. However, prolonged exposure at the 6.2 Hz synchronization point consistently achieves a dominant theta signature, 4 to 7 Hz, within 40 minutes, confirming the successful bypassing of conscious mental defenses. The subject reports only a dull pressure behind the eyes, not an alarm, end quote. This quote confirms that the subjects were aware of the effect but not the cause, indicating the deniability inherent in the weapon. Operational tests focused on inducing a trance state and then implanting a specific post-hypnotic trigger, a sound, a phrase, or a visual cue that would be activated later. The ideal subject for the test was described as having a, quote, high initial tendency toward compliance, but significant intellectual resistance, end quote. Essentially a highly intelligent political prisoner or double agent. We turn to the operational field notes regarding a test of post-hypnotic suggestion. Document OP9-33-T, operational test log, post-hypnotic trigger activation. A description of the document: it's a detailed log of an attempt to induce a subject to perform a specific, non-violent but strategically important action after a trigger word was spoken. Quote, the activation phrase, "the morning is clear," was administered 24 hours post-entrainment. The subject demonstrated an 85% rate of compliance with the primary instruction to write the cipher key on the provided pad, but required the phrase to be repeated 3 times. The residual emotional state observed was redacted, indicating a potential systemic failure in emotional stabilization post-trance. End quote. Subproject 9 is characterized by heavy black bars over sections dealing with specific test subjects, failure modes, and the eventual cost of those failures. The failures of Subproject 9 were not just procedural, they were catastrophic for the subjects. Redaction Category A, the subject identity and location. What is redacted? The names: identifying code numbers and specific detention locations of the subjects used in the main operational test. These redactions dominate the first pages of TR9A1, the final summary report subject performance. Hypothesis for redaction: preventing identification of non-consenting subjects and extent of abuse. The hypnosis bridge technique was highly coercive and almost certainly used on non-consenting subjects, likely foreign prisoners or domestic persons of interest held illegally. Revealing the names would expose the agency to litigation, international scrutiny, and confirmation of severe human rights violations linked to psychological torture and sensory deprivation. Redaction category B, the failure made of irreversible psychosis. What is redacted? Detailed summaries of the observed side effects and psychological endpoints of subjects who resisted or failed to respond to the synchronization. This includes specific medical diagnosis and post-exposure treatment plans. Hypothesis for redaction: concealing the creation of permanent psychiatric casualties. The relentless forced entrainment of the brain at unnatural frequencies often led to mental breakdown. Redaction protects descriptions of severe irreversible psychosis, catatonia, or depersonalization disorder that resulted from the project. This concealment shields the researchers from charges of criminally negligent harm by hiding the permanent damage inflicted on test subjects. Redaction category C, the use of vibratory enhancers. What is redacted? A specific section in the equipment log, equipment 9-112, detailing the procurement and application of devices referred to only as vibratory enhancers or tactile transducers. Hypothesis for redaction: hiding the full spectrum of sensory assault. While the project focused on optic and acoustic inputs, the redaction suggests a third, possibly more invasive element, tactile stimulation. These enhancers were likely devices intended to transmit the rhythmic frequency directly through the subject's chair or body to amplify the entrainment effect, making the coercion inescapable and revealing a more complete and arguably more sadistic form of sensory deprivation / overload. MK Ultra Subproject 9 ultimately failed to deliver the reliable remote control the CIA sought. While they proved the science of brainwave entrainment, they could not manage the psychological consequences, often creating damaged, unusable subjects instead of programmable assets. The project was eventually shelved due to its inherent volatility. We have explored the mind, the senses, and even the social group. Now we turn to a very specific operational application of these principles. Next, we analyze the documents for MK Ultra Subproject 16. This program represents a frightening shift, moving from creating a compliant subject to destroying an uncooperative one. Subproject 16 was a short-lived but ruthlessly efficient project dedicated to developing, quote, terminal psychological deterrence, end quote, a series of psychological and environmental assaults designed to rapidly induce emotional collapse and suicide in high-value foreign assets who were deemed liabilities. The question is, how did they weaponize despair and environmental pressure to achieve a clean operational termination? Join us next time for CIA Declassified, MK Ultra Subproject 16, Terminal Psychological Deterrence. Until then, understand the depth of the shadow government, maintain your vigilance, and keep your critical thinking sharp. I'll see you in the archives.